Hey, folks, it's Mark Arum. I hope you're enjoying the Mark Arum Show podcast. A reminder, you can hear this very radio show live Monday through Friday. We're live 6 to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday on 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk. Good Tuesday evening, everyone. Mark Arum and crew with you for the next 2 hours. Going to have some fun for the first hour, and then the second hour, chock full of goodness, caucus results, State of the Union, and the impeachment trial. Our buddy Erick Erickson is going to come back and join us with that. First off, some breaking news that really impacts, I guess, me and Chuck more than anyone else, Longoria. This is really sad breaking news for me and Chuck. Chuck and I.
Where is Hector?
Chuck and me. Did you see this, Chuck?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Showtime canceling Ray Donovan.
What?
Yeah. Done. That's it.
What?
Yeah, they're done. That's it. This is the last season. Makes no sense to me. It's
So
such
no
a...
finale. That's
That's
where
it. That's it.
Oh,
This
you're
is it.
deadwooding me?
Yeah.
Maybe they'll do a Deadwood movie in like 10 years.
I don't care in 10 years. I mean, I didn't like that show as much as I like Deadwood, but what?
Yeah, makes no sense to me. It's one of the best shows on television.
Very upset.
Liev Schreiber. I want to be Liev Schreiber.
He is.
Yeah.
He says more by not saying anything.
Oh, my
Like,
God.
I've never seen anybody grunt their way through a
Yeah.
show,
Love it.
and you know every emotion he's
So
portraying.
98% of the listeners don't care, but I know you and I.
That's-
Yeah. So
Oh, I'm so
Ray
bummed.
Donovan canceled. I want to start with a story that I wanted to talk about last week. You never got a chance. Do you guys shop at the dollar stores, the Dollar Generals,
yeah.
the Family Dollar, Dollar Tree, Longoria? I'm looking at you.
Yep.
You've got two. You shop at those dollar stores?
I've shopped at them before. Yeah.
Deb Green, are you a
Not
dollar?
against them.
Every once in a while, I'll grab something in there, yeah.
So there's one by my house that I'll stop in, and I'm ashamed to admit I don't even know which one it is. I think it's a Family Dollar. They all kind of blend together with me. But DeKalb County, this is a story that popped last week, has extended its temporary ban on new dollar stores amid residents' complaints that they're, quote, dragging down neighborhoods. This is an alarming story for me in a lot of ways. First off, I don't like governments being able to say if you can or cannot open a business, right? I mean, we had this years ago when they were trying to limit the number of toy shops. When I say toy shop, you know what I mean, Long.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I know
Right,
you know.
yeah.
But you know, on the Piedmont Road, Cheshire Bridge area, like they were trying to prevent toy stores from opening and shoe show establishments, some places. And I understand the moral objection there, but I think as an entrepreneur, if you're going to open a business, unless you can seriously point to something that would really, really do the neighborhood harm, I don't think the government should be preventing businesses from opening. And I side on the side of the dollar stores on this one. The claim by the governments, by the city governments, is they bring down the neighborhood. So if a Dollar Tree or a Dollar General or something opens up, a big chain supermarket is not going to open up and deal with the competition because dollar stores are cheaper than Publix and Kroger's, et cetera, et cetera. So I talked to Clark Howard about this before the show, and he said this about the dollar stores. While, yes, the traditional grocery stores tend to not go where there are Dollar Trees, Dollar Generals, et cetera, because they can't compete with the prices. A lot of times these the dollar stores pop up in areas that there was a big grocery retailer that left. And these come in and fill the vacuum and allow people to get their groceries. In some cases, they wouldn't have a chance. Like we heard from Russ in Gainesville. Like when his girlfriend wanted a Yoo-Hoo and beefaroni, he went to
right where to go.
He went to the dollar store because that was the closest thing. So I default to allowing us the most freedoms we can, and I don't like government saying what kind of businesses can or cannot open. Like, for example, I'm going to take this to the extreme. Let's say this is never going to happen, by the way, so don't worry about this. I want to open up Arum's Bagel Shop. And someone was like, we can't have a Jewish, bagel restaurant.
Jewish bagel shop.
Yeah, we can't. Jews Nugget, we can't have that in our neighborhood. It'll bring our property values down to have this chubby, hairy Jewish man serving circular biscuits, circular Yankee biscuits on. So I always default with the freedom of the entrepreneur to open what they can. And granted, Dollar Tree, Dollar General, this isn't a mom and pop operation. These are big companies. But I don't like the possibility of government saying what can or cannot operate in their city or neighborhood. So I just wanted to discuss that. Your thoughts on Dollar Tree, Dollar Store, Dollar General. By the way, I talked to Clark before the show. He says Dollar Tree is the upper echelon of the dollar store.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
If you have one of those in your neighborhood, that's the primo. They are far ahead of Dollar General and Family Dollar.
Ah.
So what's weird is it is a Family Dollar that's in my neighborhood. And Publix opened up a new store not too far from there. Like they weren't Dollar General, Family Dollar was there first, and then Publix came in and opened up a big grocery store.
So one of the things that the government was saying is that because they don't offer enough healthy options, like you're not getting fruit and vegetables there, you're just getting like packaged stuff, that's why they want to lessen them in areas because people won't eat that any good food there.
Yeah, but if there's no other options and your only place to get food is a dollar store, then having some food is better than having no food is what I guess. Your thoughts on that? 404-872-0750, 1-800-WSB Talk. Do you agree with the ban on dollar stores, or do you think that I'm the right side of this one? That let freedom ring, Longoria. Let freedom ring. Don't forget, I was talking to the meteorologist crew. Tomorrow or Thursday morning is going to be maybe a work from home morning. Apparently the traffic's going to be horrible with the weather. So just an early heads up. If you have that kind of ability, you don't, Longoria.
Yeah, I'll let Pete know that I'm
if you could work from home on Thursday, that would be the way to do it. The ban on Dollar Trees in DeKalb County. Your thoughts? 404-872-0750, 1-800-WSB Talk on Twitter and Instagram at Mark Arum. Mimi kicks us off on the show. Hello, Mimi. How are you?
I'm devastated. Tell me that we've got to find a way to get a petition going to keep Ray Donovan.
Isn't that insane? It is insane. So.
It's just crazy.
And apparently Liev Schreiber is very mad. Like, he is telling folks to blast Showtime. And I tweeted something about it at Showtime, like, what are you doing? But it's not it's not like, oh, yeah, creatively, we're done. Showtime's like, no, we're just stopping this show.
That's insane. But let me tell you something. I know you love movies. Have you seen the movie Den of Thieves?
I've saw Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Men in Tights.
No. You got to find it. Den of Thieves, and Ray Donovan, Liev Schreiber's half brother, plays one of the leads, and he is equally as nonverbal as Ray Donovan's character. His name's Ray Merriman.
Interesting.
You've got to see this movie. It's phenomenal, and we've got to get a petition. Start the petition, Mark, and we'll all sign it.
Yeah, and I mean, you have. So I've interviewed Bunchy. I've had Bunchy on the show. Yeah, maybe we'll replay that on Friday, the Bunchy interview, Deb. But, I mean, John Voight's on this show. I mean, it's such a good show. It's such a good show. All right, I'll see what I can do, maybe. I'll move things forward and get this petition going to save Ray Donovan.
Maybe they'll move it to another channel. Like sometimes Netflix picks stuff up.
God bless Netflix. Jump in there and save this puppy because it is really a good show. Jamie joins us in Gainesville. Jamie, welcome to the Mark Arum Show. How are you?
I'm good. I'm calling about the Dollar Tree.
Yes.
The dollar store. What would we do without them? They're great. They have more things than you think they would. You know, you have food for your kids. You can buy laundry products. You can buy, health products, whatever. Don't get rid of them. They're great to have. I see people coming up in Jags and Cadillacs all the time.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed the dollar store experiences that I've had. I've never had to rely on them strictly for all of my groceries.
No.
But as Clark said, when they go in to replace a vacuum in a food insecure area, that's a term we've been using a lot lately, that the dollar stores are the ones that are able to feed neighborhoods. And you know what? The big grocery store chain shouldn't be afraid of going up, like Publix. Like I said, they put up a brand new grocery store probably a mile away from a Dollar Tree, and they're doing fine as far as I'm concerned. George is up next on the Mark Arum Show. Hello, George.
How do you do?
Excellent. What's going on, buddy?
Well, I just got to agree with you. The dollar stores, there is a place in society for them. And I heard one of the mayors talking about the reason that they were blocking out the dollar stores was to get more of the Whole Foods and some of these Sprouts and higher-end places. From what I hear, these Sprouts and Whole Food places are having a hard time staying in business in Johns Creek and Alpharetta, much less Stonecrest
Sure.
and other
Well,
areas.
I mean, it's so different. If you think about, let's go back 20 years, right? So do the math for me, Deb. That'd be 2000. If we go back
Yes,
20 years,
2000.
Imagine, or think about how people bought groceries in 2000, right? Everyone went to the grocery store, filled their cart, blah blah blah. Now in 2020, I don't use these grocery delivery services, but they're exploding.
You did have Webvan that didn't stick around
Yeah, that
for
was
some
for like
reason.
6 minutes. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I think that the major grocery stores are going to be struggling to stay in business as more. I think Walmart has food delivery now. I think you can get your food delivered from Walmart.
And Publix, too.
Publix, yeah, the Instacart. And more people are doing that. I enjoy going to the grocery store. I have not yet done.
Seriously?
I love going to the. I mean, granted, I have an unabashed love for Publix. Where's my bell?
No, it's not the grocery store in general. It's just the tediousness of having.
No, I love it. I love
Like
it,
eating,
and I
right?
love going. And I'm such the. Oh, look at that cinnamon buns, or like
Were
if
you
I go.
that kid that constantly tugging on your mom's sleeve, like mom, look.
No, because I wasn't able to as a kid. Now as an adult, I had this revelation a couple of years ago. I'm like, I could buy any type of cookie I want now. Like before, I'd be like, Mom, I want Chips Ahoy. No, you're getting Fig Newtons. But as an adult, I'm like, I could buy any kind of cookie I want. So I really enjoy going to their grocery stores. All right, city's starting to ban dollar stores. Your thoughts on that? I am very, very opposed to that. I don't think we should be banning any types of store for any type of reason. 404-872-0750 on Twitter and Instagram at Mark Arum. This is The Mark Arum Show. DeKalb County continuing their ban on dollar stores. Your thoughts on that at 404-872-0750. Tony's in Lawrenceville. Tony, welcome to The Mark Arum Show.
Hey, Mark, thanks for taking my call, man. Long
What's up,
time
buddy?
listener, first time caller. Hey, I was just calling because, yes, this listening to your show, this does sound very concerning, and I guess I was calling to get some clarity as to whether or not the government official that was putting this forward, does he have, like, signatures from the community? Is this a community thing? I've heard of communities like not wanting to have like a Walmart there or something like that. But I guess I was wondering, is this just one guy setting this up? Or
It's the county commission that did it because they said, quote, following concerns from officials and residents over what they see as a proliferation of dollar stores. So there's not been a vote. These are just elected officials, the commissioners, getting together and saying, we don't want these anymore. And it's not just DeKalb County. This is happening across the United States. A lot of local communities are saying no to the dollar stores. And I understand some of the concerns, but I don't want the government to say Chuck can't open up Chuck's Elk and Gun Shop in downtown Dallas, or Longoria's enchilada cart can't be opening up in Smyrna. I don't like it. I don't like it. Sanjay, I do like little Sanjay. He's coming up next with Would You Rather and your calls. This is the Mark Arum Show on WSB.
Hey, this is Anderson Cooper, and you're listening to The Mark Arum Show.
6:38, 65 degrees on Peachtree Street, 6.5 on the Mark Arum Show back sweat meter. Weather's going to change rapidly, though. Very wet stuff coming to North Georgia. We'll keep you updated. Kirk Mellish, of course, with your complete forecast throughout the evening and tomorrow morning on Atlanta's Morning News with Scott Slade. Come on up at 7. We're going to hit the Cox Media Group Radio Network. Erick Erickson is going to join us as we talk about State of the Union, the caucus, and the impeachment trial, which is, yes, still a thing. We'll get back to your calls on the dollar store ban in DeKalb County. But first, let's do a little Would You Rather with little Sanjay.
It's time for Would You Rather with Little Sanjay.
He's the guru, the soothsayer, the truth seeker, the asker of unanswerable questions. He joins us every Tuesday and Thursday on the Mark Arum Show. He's Big Sanjay and Would You Rather. How are you, my friend?
My man, just on my way home from soccer practice.
Excellent. Did you score any goals, little guy?
Yeah. I didn't play with the 8-year-olds, but
that would be a hell of a movie.
Kai did a great job.
Sanjay shaves his face and then joins a 12 and under travel squad. That would be a great sitcom. All right, so Sanjay, thanks for coming on early. He's going to ask us questions. We're going to answer them in studio. I want you to answer in your car. We got to do it quick because we're on this early clock. So what's the first question, Sanjay?
All right, would you rather have free clothes for the rest of your life or free food?
Free food, 100%. Again, I've talked about this. I've got T-shirts that are 30 years old, underwear that's 15 years old, socks that are older than Longoria. So I'm not a big clothes guy. Give me free food all day.
Yeah, I'm never hungry, so give me clothes.
Yeah, understood. We already knew that answer.
Yeah.
We already knew. Chuck.
Food, definitely.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been rocking unless my wife's going to buy me clothes, I'll just wear this stuff until it disintegrates.
There was a comedian that once said, I wish I could credit the comedian. They said, however you dressed at 23 is the way you're going to dress the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And that is totally, I'm dressed the way I was at 23. I've just stayed there. Longoria, food or clothes?
Food.
Yeah, all right.
Definitely.
Next question, Sanjay.
All right. Would you rather be able to control the weather or be able to control other people's thoughts?
So I could convince, if I could control thoughts, I could convince Deb to go to KFC and get me 2 of those KFC bowls right now.
And eat them.
You could.
Oh, and what was the other one? Control the weather?
Or be able to control the weather.
Yeah, I don't want to be godlike in that way. Give me the ability to send Deb Green to KFC. I want to control mine.
That's where you draw the line.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of don't care what other people are thinking anyway. I don't want to go into their heads, so I'll take the weather.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, Chuck?
I see no advantage to the weather.
Yeah.
But I could really get some stuff done by getting in people's heads.
The only advantage to weather is like if I've got to do something, like, I don't know, like say Maya scheduled us to go to Sanjay's kid's birthday at Monkey Joe's, and I don't want to go, and I could be like, oh, ice storm.
Right,
yeah. Just to get me out of stuff. Not that I would not ever go to your son's birthday party, Sanjay. But I would use weather to increase my laziness.
Sure.
You know, like
you could also get in his head and just convince him not to invite you.
That's true. Exactly right. Yeah, Arum, you don't have to come.
I'm going to get in people's head, I think.
Yeah, I think that there's more upside to that. Next question, Sanjay.
Next question. Would you rather win the genetic lottery or the actual lottery?
Well, the ship sailed on the genetic lottery. I mean, this is what I got to work with. So I'll go actual lottery.
If I win the actual lottery, I can fix all the things that were wrong with the genetic lottery.
Okay.
I'll do that.
I don't know.
A lot of surgery.
Nice
There's
enhancements.
some very rich people that pass because of genetic issues.
Understood.
Yeah,
Chuck?
Give me the money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, money.
I was thinking about this the other day with Pat Mahomes winning the Super Bowl.
Right.
So his dad was a former Major League Baseball player.
Yeah.
And Pat Mahomes was the dad.
Patrick is the son.
Patrick, yeah, whatever. And they had a quote of him saying, well, everyone wanted me to be a professional baseball player, but I wanted to be a professional football player. Like, it was that easy of a choice for him.
I know, right?
You know, it's like, he's that genetically superior. He's like, I'll do football, you know? And you know there's eventually going to come a day when we choose the genetics of our kids. Like, you guys, that's why I'm holding out having kids. I'll wait until
That's why.
You're hoping that you get okay.
Exactly. Like, your girls are already, you know, they've lost the genetic lottery.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
No, I'm just kidding.
Thanks a lot.
But, like, eventually in the future, I don't know how far away, you're going to be like, all right, I want my son to be athletic, or I want my daughter to be this and this. So it's really interesting. But, yeah, give me the real lottery. Next question, Sanjay.
All right, this is the last one. Would you rather have good luck when things are going well or have good luck when things are going poorly?
This is all superstition. Good luck when things are going poorly, I guess.
But if you had good luck when things are going poorly, don't you have...
Yeah, what's the difference?
Yeah, then it's not poorly.
Like, if you're...
I mean,
you're having
would
good
you rather
luck.
come out of a rut or just make it even better?
Well, I never want to be in a rut, but if I am, I want to be able to come out of it, so I'm going to go that way.
I guess doing poorly.
And then come out of the rut,
yeah,
as Sanjay says?
I guess it's the same thing, I think.
Chuck, do you want to come out of a rut, or do you want to
Oh, my God.
or do you want to continue your fantastic life and have it even get any better?
With genetically great kids.
Genetically inferior daughter.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, she kind of is.
I kid. Your kids are adorable. I'm just
I don't know. I
envious.
guess I'll be fine. I'll deal with the rut.
All right, take the rut.
I'll take good luck when I'm everything.
Yeah, I'll take good luck when I'm down, I guess.
All right. Do you have one more quick one? Because that was weak to go out on.
I do, but you might not answer it.
Go ahead.
Would you rather drink water that tastes like number one or drink number one that tastes like water?
Number one, or water that tastes like number one, I guess. I can get some of that Crystal Light and you know.
and spruce it up a little bit.
Like Kool-Aid. I can put Kool-Aid in it and make it taste like, grape urine.
Yeah, I'm going to say that the whole point that it tastes like number one.
I understand. I don't want to drink urine, so I'm going to drink the water that tastes like urine.
I drink water. I'll stick to water.
That tastes like urine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chuck?
Yeah.
Chuck's like, interestingly, on my last hunting trip, Phil lost our canteen.
Listen, survival techniques aside, I'll take the stuff that tastes like water.
Oh, the urine that tastes like water.
Oh,
all right.
I'll take the water that tastes like
urine.
urine.
All right. Chuck's
I don't think
Chuck's
you
the
guys
mountain
will
man.
the first time you drink that.
Well, we'll see. Again, Kool-Aid, Crystal Light. I mean, there's a lot of things you can spruce it up with. Sanjay is the official accountant of the Mark Arum Show. Find him on Facebook, Brass Tax Accounting or brass.tax. Sanjay, we'll talk to you Thursday, buddy.
You bet. Talk to you then.
All right. We'll be right back. Your calls on the Dollar General and Dollar Store bans next on the Mark Arum Show. DeKalb County extends their temporary ban on new dollar stores. I don't like when the government says what or what cannot open up in businesses. Your thoughts on that at 404-872-0750. Zeb is in Lawrenceville. Zeb, welcome to the Mark Arum Show.
Hey, how's it going, Mark?
What's up, Zeb?
I appreciate the call. I want to thank your traffic team first off. I mean, I spent an hour and a half going 16 miles, but it's all good. It's Atlanta. As far as the dollar stores, it's in DeKalb County, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so DeKalb County has a multitude of grocery stores in general.
Mm-hmm.
If they're going to limit one store because of the apparent ill effects of health, why are they doing that when, it's what somebody's preference is? There's no dictation they should have.
There is enough. So I got a message on Instagram. Thanks, Zeb. A lady messaged me on Instagram just now saying it's more of the proliferation of them. They don't want them on every corner, which I guess,
Don't
but
want to be a Starbucks.
I don't know. Yeah, like no one's saying, oh, there's too many Starbuckses. There's too many McDonald's.
I don't know. That seems like a wedge to get in.
Yeah.
To get rid of them.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Stonecrest in particular is apparently the area of DeKalb County where there's too many of them. Bert's up next on the Mark Arum Show. Hello, Bert.
Hey, Mr. Mark, how you doing this evening?
What up, brother?
Hey, got a little funny story. I used to be in the military. My wife, at the time, before I kicked her out of the house and sent her, I went to clean out our storage room. And she happened to be a dollar store hoarder.
Oh, no.
I literally threw out close to $10,000 worth of dollar store. She would buy stuff, leave it in the bags with the receipt, tie them up, and put it in the storage room.
Well, you screwed up. You should open up your own dollar store, Bert. You had a whole, you had the inventory.
Bert's Dollar Store.
Yeah, Bert's Dollar Store.
Now,
you could have been competing.
Now, jump ahead 22 years. My current wife of 21 years happened to just wander into a dollar store this past year. And the funny thing is, you go into these things and they don't have price tags on anything because everything's $1.
Yeah.
She kept asking the cashier. She goes, "How much is this? How much is this? How much is this?" Finally, the cashier got a little annoyed with her and kind of goes, "Ma'am, you see that right there? Everything's $1. Everything's $1." My current wife kind of went nuts, and but she has respect for my aversion to
Understood. Yeah, you've had a bad experience. Have you ever heard of the store? I think it's Five Below.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where everything in the store is $5 or less. Yeah, I've never been to one of that. I heard they're pretty cool, though. Will, real quick, what do you think about the dollar store ban?
Oh, I don't know. Well, let me tell you one thing. First of all, Dollar General should be $1 in general because there's stuff there at $50.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's Dollar General is not a dollar store.
Well, Clark Howard said that is the more affluent one. Caroline, I don't have time to take your call, but do you want to win some free tickets?
No, I wanted to say every neighborhood is not of equal opportunity. Some of these stores come in your residential area, and I would like for the people who do these stores I would love for them to build the stores in their neighborhood the way they build in other neighborhoods and on every corner.
All right. Thank you, Caroline. Caroline doesn't want the tickets. Chuck, give it to either Tal or Hugh, whoever's online first. What did they win, Deb Green?
Tickets to go see Daryl Hall and John Oates, Squeeze, and KT Tunstall August 13th at Ameris Bank Amphitheater.
Bam! Courtesy of the Mark Arum Show and executive producer Deb Green. When we come back after news, weather, and traffic, Erick Erickson joins us. We start our network coverage on the Cox Media Group Radio Network talking about the impeachment trial, the caucus, and the State of the Union. On Twitter and Instagram at Mark Arum. This is the Mark Arum Show.
I do not ask you to convict him because truth or right or decency matters nothing to him, but because we have proven our case and it matters to you.
This is continuing coverage of the president's impeachment trial in the Senate.
At the end of the day, this is an effort to overturn the results of one election and to try to interfere in the coming election.
Here's Mark Arum.
Welcome to the show and a good Tuesday evening, one and all. Mark Arum broadcasting live in Atlanta, Georgia, across the Cox Media Group Radio Network as we continue our impeachment trial coverage here. But we got so much more to talk about tonight. We will cover the impeachment trial. We will talk about the Iowa caucuses. We're actually starting to get some numbers in. And, of course, we'll talk about the State of the Union, which you will hear live here across the Cox Media Group Radio Network. Joining us from the Resurgent.com, our political insider, Mr. Erick Erickson. Eric, good evening. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
There's literally, I need like 9 hours to bend your ear because there's so much to go on. Let's start with the impeachment trial. Closing arguments continue. Did we learn anything new today on the Senate floor?
Well, we know that Susan Collins is not going to vote guilty, nor is Lisa Murkowski. It appears that Joe Manchin will not either. So the president looks like he will have all the Republicans and one or two Democrats coming on board to vote to acquit him, which gives him a bipartisan acquittal. At the moment, Gallup says his approval rating is the highest it's ever been.
Unbelievable bounce. This is Susan Collins on the Senate floor earlier today.
As I concluded in the impeachment trial of President Clinton, I do not believe that the House has met its burden of showing that the president's conduct, however flawed, warrants the extreme step of immediate removal from office.
We knew when this whole thing started that he would be acquitted in the Senate. There was just no chance the Democrats were going to get the 67 votes, Eric. And now it's up to the senators like Collins and Murkowski, et cetera, to determine what is best for them politically. And so I guess Susan Collins read the tea leaves in her home state of Maine and said, you know what, I'm going to vote to acquit.
Yeah, the polling here is very fascinating. The Democrats certainly, it winds up, looks like it blew up in their face. In Maine, 55% of Maine residents say they're tired of impeachment, and 67% of Maine residents say they'd like to settle this at the ballot box instead of removing the president. Those are remarkable numbers for a state that's not very friendly to the president.
Indeed. Yesterday, the word, the buzzword, if you will, in the nation's capital was censure, 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 censure. Any further talk about censuring the president today?
No, not really. In large part because you've got to deal with impeachment first. And Joe Manchin says he doesn't want to vote for impeachment, so there's no reason to cut a deal with him to say, okay, you don't vote for impeachment, we'll do the censure thing. He can try to bring it up if he wants, but there's really no procedure to do a censure in the midst of an impeachment trial.
Erick Erickson and Mark Arum here on the Cox Media Group Radio Network. The impeachment trial wraps up tomorrow. State of the Union is tonight. You've got so many sources inside the White House, inside the Beltway. Do we have any idea of what the president is going to say tonight as he addresses the nation?
We can get a sense from who he has invited, and the initial line as well, that the president's confirming he's going to give the Medal of Freedom to Rush Limbaugh, which I suspect that will come up to a degree in the speech. Juan Guaido, the leader of the legislature in Venezuela, is going to be there, which suggests he will make a big show about bipartisan support to change the government in Venezuela. There will also be a child there who was born very early something I want to say like 18 to 20 weeks, one of the earliest born children still living, to make a play for late-term abortion legislation and regulation, and a case before the Supreme Court right now on regulations of abortion clinics. There will also be a big issue on immigration. Ken Cuccinelli will be making a lot of rounds this week. That's the president's pick to deal with the immigration issue, so that suggests there's going to be a big immigration play. I have not actually gotten the embargoed speech yet. Usually get that about this time. They start sending out highlights of it. From what I'm told from people directly in the White House, even the president himself has been saying this is going to be very low-key. He doesn't want to distract from the Democrats' debacle last night, and he doesn't want to. He knows he's going to be overshadowed by the impeachment vote tomorrow, so there's no reason to make this a massive spectacle.
Some of the conservatives I talked to earlier today were worried that the president might not stick to the prompter and might try to take a victory lap over the impeachment. Is that a legitimate concern? Do you think we'll see President Trump go off the cuff at any point tonight?
There are a lot of people who are concerned. There are some Democrats, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, for one, has decided to boycott the speech. There are some Democrats worried he will. From what I'm being told from people in the White House, the president understands that he's going to get stepped on by what happens tomorrow in the Senate. There's just no reason to spend his political capital tonight on the State of the Union address.
Questions about the impeachment trial, the caucuses, or the State of the Union right now for Erick Erickson at 404-872-0750, 1-800-972-8255. Chuck Schumer had this concern earlier today about the president's State of the Union speech.
There's a high likelihood later tonight that President Trump will gloat about how Republicans want better, cheaper health care for everybody. But in reality, the president and congressional Republicans have put America's health care in grave danger.
Forget Schumer's viewpoint on health care. Will health care be in the speech tonight, and should it be in the speech tonight, Eric?
Yeah, it's going to be there. The president wants a deal on prescription drugs. Nancy Pelosi is floating a plan in the House of Representatives that would essentially impose government price control on prescriptions. Pharmaceutical companies and a lot of conservatives really opposed to it. They're trying to float an alternative plan to the president, one that is backed by Mark Meadows, the future chief of staff, once Mick Mulvaney departs. And the White House seems to indicate the president's favorable to the plan. It's been explained to him it would boost his trade powers. That's how they're selling it to the president. That may very well come up tonight.
Erick Erickson from the Resurgent.com joining us on the Mark Arum Show. President Trump, you mentioned the Gallup poll numbers. His numbers have actually shot up in the last 2 weeks. You know, they did take a dip at one point during this whole impeachment saga, but they've shot up in the last 2 weeks. I would assume you would know better than I that his advisors are saying, listen, the economy's humming, unemployment is down, we escaped this impeachment thing. Let's just ride this out and just keep hammering home how good the economy is. Is that a good strategy going forward for the president?
Yeah, I think it is. I will tell you that several of his advisors, and I know this for fact, several of his advisors have pointed out that in the last several weeks, he has been out of the headlines. While impeachment's been in the headlines, the president himself and the president's direct behavior have not been in the headlines. And every time that's happened, the president's popularity rating has gone up. Out of sight, out of mind, his polling goes up. The Americans can focus on the economy, how good the country's doing compared to a lot of other nations. And they're trying to advise the president to be a little more low-key. Go do your rallies, but otherwise stay off Twitter and stop trying to redefine a narrative every day.
404-872-0750, 1-800-972-8255. Your questions for conservative think tank. What am I calling you, Eric? I need an official title. Talk show host.
I designated jerk. I don't know. Hey, you.
There you go. The Baker, Erick Erickson.
There you go.
1-800-972-8255. Last night on the show, I was talking to our political analyst, Bill Crane, and I just said, thank the Lord, whatever Lord you believe in, that I've never lived in a caucus state. Every state I've ever lived in has been in a primary state. And last night shows why that I'm just so happy I've never had to caucus in the political realm. What exactly happened last night, and what do we know today about the caucus results?
A catastrophic failure of technology. They should have just stuck with paper. So every precinct has a piece of paper, and they got to fill out a mathematical formula based on the number of people who showed up, the number of people available for delegates in that precinct, et cetera. And they fill out math. Normally what happens is they divide up the delegates on proportion. They don't worry about all the math problems that come with it. Well, the Bernie Sanders campaign complained after 2016, so they had to change change the way they did the caucuses. And you had a lot of people come in who've done them in the past, not familiar with it, and then they had to use this app. The app was not tested. It wasn't load tested. It wasn't stress tested. And you didn't even have to use a username and password, so you could go in and put in your results to send them away. Well, it crashed under so much load. The additional problem was campaigns, starting with the Buttigieg campaign, started putting up pictures online of these sheets that are filled out that show that Pete was winning. And each of those sheets had a little PIN number. Well, turns out the PIN number was all you needed to log into the app. So people started downloading the app, putting in these PIN numbers just to see what would happen. And it turns out that if you put in the PIN number after the precinct had already sent its data, you wound up erasing the precinct's data, and no one knew that would happen.
The data, I'm being told, is still secure. Who's, at the end of the day, someone's got to fall on the sword for this. Who is at fault for what the debacle that happened yesterday?
Well, there are a lot of Democrats privately blaming Tom Perez, the chairman of the Democratic Party. He was the one who pushed them to use this app. Hillary Clinton is going to be a good fall guy for it as well. But ultimately, Robbie Mook, who was Hillary Clinton's campaign manager in 2016, not well liked within the Democratic Party. He's tried to fly under the radar since 2016. He was one of the big people behind building this app and getting the DNC to embrace it. And the downside is it broke, and he's probably going to be out of politics for a little while dealing with this, licking his wounds.
And again, primaries better than caucuses. Erick Erickson joining us from the Resurgent.com and the Cox Media Group radio network. All right, so we didn't have results this morning like we were supposed to have on the morning news, but now we're starting to get some results. What percentage of the tally is in, and who's leading and who's losing?
So we've got 62%. We're missing basically 40% of Iowa. Pete Buttigieg's at 27%, Sanders 25%, Warren 18%, Biden at 15%. Now, here's the thing. Had the results come out last night, the huge headline would have been Joe Biden cratered. He did, and it's going to be hard for him to go on, particularly with Bloomberg coming in these later states. But because the screw-up was so big, no one paid attention to that. Now this evening, the big issue is that Pete Buttigieg has more delegates coming out of Iowa with 62% in than Bernie Sanders, but Bernie Sanders actually got more actual voters to show up. The reason that Buttigieg gets an advantage here by a couple of points in the number of, and Iowa gives proportionally its number of delegates, it's not winner take all. The reason that Buttigieg gets a couple of more delegates than Sanders is because Buttigieg dominated in very large precincts where there are college campuses, and that actually incidentally was from faculty members, not from students. Students went for Sanders. The faculty members went for Buttigieg. So he's got a slight benefit out of that from Sanders, and the Sanders campaign is already crying foul tonight. One, they had precinct watchers in virtually every precinct in Iowa, so they know that Sanders ultimately will win Iowa. And two, that he's ahead right now in the numbers, and yet Buttigieg is ahead in the delegates, and that's what happened to Bernie Sanders in 2016 that caused them to rewrite the rules. Sanders was getting the number of people to show up, but Clinton was getting the delegates.
Russ joins us on the show. Russ, your question for Eric. Russ?
Yes, my question is, why is it that every day we hear from Chuck Schumer, but we don't hear from Mitch McConnell? Why are we not getting this other side of the narrative?
Interesting. Why has McConnell been less vocal than Chuck Schumer, Eric?
Because McConnell's winning and Schumer's losing. Schumer knows he's lost, so he's doing the PR spin job. McConnell thinks the vote will speak for itself, and McConnell's also got to hold in line a more diverse caucus than Schumer does. Schumer can go out and speak for all the Democrats. They're all in agreement. The Republicans not necessarily so.
One more segment with the political insider known as Erick Erickson. You can find him online at Resurgent.com, covering the impeachment trial, the caucus, and the State of the Union. We got you covered here. Mark Arum live in Atlanta on Twitter and Instagram at Mark Arum. Back after this on the Cox Media Group Radio Network.
Mark Arum on 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
That I came across was the last step in the application where I had to submit the caucus worksheet via picture, but they have paper trails, so it should all be good.
As a caucus chairman from Granger, Iowa, talking about yesterday's caucus debacle. Erick Erickson and Mark Arum with you on the Cox Media Group Radio Network. Rhonda joins us on the show. Rhonda, what's your question?
My question is, Eric, I think that this whole impeachment thing is going to overshadow anything that Donald Trump did good. I'm an independent and a minority, and I'm telling you, his numbers with us are way below what he says. And I just think that nobody's ever going to remember anything except for the Republicans gave a fake acquittal.
It's a 24-hour news cycle, so our memories evaporate quick, but will this impeachment stick on the president here?
See, I actually don't think it will. And the reason I don't think it will is we'll look at his job approval numbers today. We've been in the midst of impeachment for 2 months, and his job approval has trended up. I mean, we had, last summer we had a North Korea summit. People have already forgotten that. They've forgotten the Venezuela situation. They've forgotten the Iran situation from just a month ago. The news cycle moves so fast, we'll be well moved on.
There'll be 9 big stories between now and the election.
9 big stories between now and next week.
Exactly right. Dave's in Kennesaw. Dave, welcome to the show. What's your question, buddy?
Preach, brother. I got a quick question. Because of what happened today, Eric, is there a possibility to do a redo on the caucus? And if that's an option, does Bloomberg get more involved? Because to me, he's got a better message that resonates more.
No, they won't. And the reason they won't is because the caucus was done and the results were actually tabulated correctly. The problem was just the mechanism by getting the results to the party, which was the software that broke. So they've got the actual results from the actual caucuses in each precinct, and they've all been certified. They just got to now go manually collect those certified pieces of paper since the app they intended to use to transmit everything to corporate basically failed.
And just to clarify, I saw this online earlier today that, the Democrats were hacked by the Russians, et cetera, or the Ukrainians.
The Trump supporters are pushing that hard. There's no truth in that. This was an app designed by politicos who actually aren't tech savvy. It wasn't tested well, and it didn't actually transmit fraudulent data. The data came from these printed sheets, and you can see copies of the sheets online. People have been putting pictures up, so it's all there. And instead of trying to use the app now, what they're doing is each precinct is having to go to their county Democratic headquarters, and then the county Democratic headquarters are having to drive them to Des Moines, where the Democrats are doing a tabulated count.
Real quick, let's say the results holds up and Buttigieg wins Iowa. Does it really matter at the end of the day? Is Iowa even that important anymore?
It is in that 4 of the last 5 Democratic nominees have won Iowa. The problem, though, is that after this caucus result is so screwed up, people are going to dismiss it out of hand. That puts Nevada and New Hampshire coming up next week, and then Nevada and South Carolina on the stage. And remember as well, Black and Hispanic voters haven't started voting yet. It's just been all white folks, and that's really going to shake up the race.
One of my favorite white folks, Erick Erickson from theresurgent.com, on social media at EW Erickson. I appreciate you staying late, my friend. Enjoy the State of the Union, and we'll talk to you down the line.
Thank you.
There he is, Erick Erickson from theresurgent.com. When we come back, we'll go a little further in depth into the caucuses. Greg Bluestein, our reporter from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, just back from Iowa, will join us, and your calls. It's Mark Arum, the Cox Media Group Radio Network.
I do not ask you to convict him because truth or right or decency matters nothing to him, but because we have proven our case and it matters to you.
This is continuing coverage of the president's impeachment trial in the Senate.
At the end of the day, this is an effort to overturn the results of one election and to try to interfere in the coming election.
Here's Mark Arum.
Welcome back to the show. We're exactly an hour and 23 minutes away from the State of the Union delivered by President Trump, the second president in history to deliver the State of the Union while being impeached. Bill Clinton was the first. Mark Arum broadcasting live here in Atlanta, Georgia, across the Cox Media Group Radio Network. We're going to discuss for the next half hour the State of the Union, the impeachment trial, the wrapping up of the impeachment trial, and the Iowa caucuses. I want to give you an update on the Iowa caucuses in case you're at work today. Obviously, you went to bed last night thinking this morning you'd wake up and have some results. Well, we didn't get them till deep this afternoon.
I'm Jamie Dupree in Washington. After all sorts of trouble last night with new vote reporting software, the first results of the Iowa Democratic caucuses show 62% of the precincts reporting, as Pete Buttigieg and Bernie Sanders are in the lead with Elizabeth Warren in third and Joe Biden in fourth. The head of the Iowa Democratic Party gave no estimate on when we will get 100% of the results.
Jamie Dupree in Washington, fresh back from the Corn State, is Atlanta Journal-Constitution political reporter Greg Bluestein, who joins us on the show. Greg, welcome home, my friend. How was your trip out west?
It was cold. It was fun, but I'm glad to be back.
What the heck happened, Greg Bluestein? What went on last night in Iowa?
Well, they're still trying to figure out exactly what went wrong, but what we know is that there was a faulty app, an app that had not been tested, that that local precincts were supposed to be using to report their data back to party headquarters, and the app just didn't work. It reported some data, but not all. It was very quickly figured out that if they did the quality control kind of testing on the data that was coming back, and they figured out really quickly that it was not transmitting all the data. And then what's worse is that all these local volunteers were told as a backup to use this phone hotline, and that didn't work either. And so we talked to some people who were waiting for hours to report the results. And as we know, when we went to bed, me at 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning, there still wasn't any concrete results yet.
The state of Iowa prides themselves on the caucuses. They love the fact, they embrace it. It's actually a big part of their economic engine during the election years to have this. And Iowa residents this morning were waking up embarrassed more than anything. Is that what you were hearing from the folks on the ground there?
Humiliated, frustrated, angry. In the airport at Des Moines, I just saw these despondent faces around. People came up to me because I guess I look like a reporter, and they said, "Look, we want to apologize. We feel terrible about what happened." And the interesting thing is, as much as Republicans nationally were mocking the Iowa caucuses and what happened, local Republicans were equally as humiliated as Democrats. They did not want it to go wrong, right? Because it's such an important part of the economy and the character of the state that Republicans too kind of banded with Democrats and said, "Hey, the Democrats did the right thing by waiting, by making sure the results were accurate." And so you could just feel it slipping away. You could just sense that this is the last time, at least for a while, that this state would hold its first in the nation vote.
Political reporter Greg Bluestein from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution joining us on the Mark Arum Show. He is just back from Iowa. Going forward after what happened last night and the debacle with the results, any talk about changing the political process, maybe not doing the caucus or not starting things off in Iowa and doing something different next go-around?
A tremendous amount of talk. I mean, even the campaigns are openly talking about it because you have candidates who spent millions of dollars, had hundreds of visits, an untold amount of resources, organizing volunteers, and all for naught, right? I mean, even the winner today, if we find out a winner later on tonight, it's more muted. They're already in New Hampshire, right? They're already off to the next battleground. And so, whoever wins loses that bump, loses that surge, and loses any sort of, tail energy from winning this caucus. So it's a huge disappointment, not just to the voters and the organizers and volunteers, but to the candidates themselves. So there's a lot of talk about it moving. And, one of the possibilities that really emerged quickly was rotating between the 4 early voting states. So going New Hampshire votes first next, and then maybe Nevada, and then maybe South Carolina, and then maybe back to Iowa. And that way you get a better representation, particularly when you get to South Carolina and Nevada, of the nation's overall population.
If you have any questions for Greg about what went down in Iowa, 404-872-0750, 1-800-972-8255. So still CNN showing 60% of the delegates are in, and Pete Buttigieg still leading Senator Bernie Sanders. Do we expect those numbers to hold, or do we think Sanders will eventually jump ahead because we got some big districts still that haven't reported?
Yeah, it'll be really close. I mean, the sense I got from the energy on the ground was Bernie Sanders would win. But when Pete Buttigieg was as confident as he was last night, and remember, he sort of declared, he declared himself victorious. That's for a reason. And the reason why is all these guys have this network of volunteers and activists in every single precinct. And so they're reporting back just as, the party operatives were reporting back to the party. These folks were reporting back to their campaigns headquarters. So these campaigns might have just as much intel as the state party does right now, or even more. And that's why Pete Buttigieg was pretty confident. That's why you heard Bernie Sanders saying that he did really well. That's why you heard Amy Klobuchar say that she punched above her weight. It's also why you saw a more muted response from Joe Biden, because he knew that his numbers were not going to look all that great tonight.
Biden fourth right now in the tally in Iowa. How much of a hurt does that put on his long-term campaign hopes?
I mean, it's not great for him. I mean, in a sense, he's lucky because of what happened last night, right? Because he can say, and as his campaign did, they raised questions about the tally, and because Pete Buttigieg won't get, or Bernie Sanders won't get, the tremendous boost that they would have had there been a clean result last night. At the same time, he spent a lot of money and time and treasure there too, trying to build up his support, especially with older Iowa voters, to prove that he's the guy. And if he had won that outright, he would have been pretty unstoppable. He's number 2 in a lot of polls in New Hampshire behind Bernie Sanders. And then you head into Nevada and South Carolina. In South Carolina, he's had a lead, consistent lead. It's narrowing, but a consistent lead now for months.
404-872-0750, 1-800-972-8255. Jerry joins us on the show. Question about the impeachment trial. Jerry, welcome to the program. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm on the green side of the grass, which is always a good day.
Amen, sir.
I just wanted to say there was a caller that called in just a little while ago, said that she was an independent and was leaning the other way against Trump. But, however, I am an independent / libertarian. I did not agree with the Bill Clinton impeachment, and I didn't even vote for Bill Clinton. I didn't vote for Donald Trump, and I don't really like them. I personally do not like the man, and I didn't vote for him this last time. However, because of the way that man's been treated and the way the Democrats have acted, I've already made up my mind. I'm going to vote for Trump in 2020 just because I'm disgusted by the way that the Democrats have treated him and the charades that they've played.
I'm glad you brought that up. So thank you for the call, Jerry. Greg, you were just on the ground in Iowa. How closely were the Iowans following the impeachment trial, and did it have any impact on the way they were voting in the caucus?
That is a great point. It barely came up.
Really?
A dozen or so events, and a lot of these events were town halls where voters got to stand up and ask questions of the candidates, anything they wanted. You know, from favorite ice cream flavor to, you know, their thoughts on the Chicago Cubs starting lineup. And there was not a single question that I heard about impeachment. And from the national reporters who've been following these campaigns more closely than I have, that's the same thing they said, is that it rarely, if ever, came up because a lot of voters just saw it as a foregone conclusion. Wherever you stood, you know, for and against it, they knew what would happen in the Senate, right? They knew that the acquittal was very likely, and a lot of voters just saw it as a waste of time and a distraction.
It's tough to be entertained by a movie when you know the ending, right? I mean, that's basically what this was. Everyone knew the end of this movie, so why are you watching it? Why do you care if you already know how this is going to end? Mike joins us next on the program. Mike, welcome to the show. What do you want to talk about, buddy?
Hey, Greg, it's Martin Dunwoody. Good to see how you're moving along in your career. But Blumenthal, he is spending money like there's no tomorrow.
Bloomberg.
Bloomberg, excuse me. And I can't help but wonder if he is the winner in this, while Pete is the new face, I think, for the Democrats, and the old faces. People are going to look at the age issue, and that's going to be a problem. So Pete might shine at the end of the day. Now, the last thing, no one is complaining about the tax cuts, and no one's complaining about us sending more troops to other wars. That's a big factor.
All right, let's start with Michael Bloomberg and the spending, Greg. He was a non-factor at Iowa, didn't do anything in Iowa. Not sure what his plans are in New Hampshire, but on these very radio stations you're listening right now, I'm sure you're hearing a lot of Michael Bloomberg ads. Where does he fit into the whole scheme of things?
Yeah, it's really fascinating. It's a giant political science experiment in a way because he's not competing in these early voting states. He didn't compete in Iowa. He doesn't plan to compete in New Hampshire or really in South Carolina or Nevada either. So he's making a stand in these larger states that are voting on Super Tuesday, and then after that, like Georgia on March 24th. And he's already staffed here in Georgia. He's already staffed up. He's hired folks. He has opened about half dozen. He has plans to open about a half dozen offices, and he's spending a tremendous amount of money to do that, as we all know, because we can't avoid the TV ads. But the caller is exactly right, because what he's banking on is a muddled field. The best news for Michael Bloomberg going into Super Tuesday is not a clear frontrunner. And so having a very close race between Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg and maybe another split ticket in New Hampshire is great news for Bloomberg because, again, if there's no consensus leader, then he has the chance to really rise from the pack.
Not to crack open the history book, if you look back at the last Democratic president, so going back to Jimmy Carter, you got Carter, you had Clinton, and you had Obama. All three of them were kind of fresh-faced guys outside of the mainstream Washington political scene. You know, Jimmy Carter was the governor of Georgia, Bill Clinton, the governor of Arkansas, Barack Obama, relative newcomer to politics, did serve in the Senate, but certainly was an old guard. Is that Pete Buttigieg? Does he fill that spot and follow in the steps of a Carter, a Clinton, and an Obama?
He is certainly trying to fill that lane. And if you go to his events and you know, he was attracting upwards of 1,000, 2,000 people, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in Iowa, that is a tremendous amount of people near the end. That's exactly what he's saying. He's saying that it's time to look forward rather than looking back. He doesn't go after Joe Biden by name and doesn't mention Amy Klobuchar, but what his whole pitch is around is moving forward and kind of being the future face of the party, being the 38-year-old who can bring the party into the next generation, right? Being the first, I guess he's a millennial, the first millennial president, and really, casting Joe Biden and really the rest of the field as yesterday's news.
Greg Bluestein, a reporter, political analyst, and reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, joins us on the Mark Arum Show. Greg, can you hang out one more segment, answer some questions?
You got it.
404, I apologize to your family, by the way, for me keeping you up late as you just got back from Iowa. 404-872-0750, 1-800-972-8255. You can follow Greg on Twitter. It's at Bluestein, Bluestin. It's Mark Arum Show on the Cox Media Group Radio Network.
On 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
In a viable group, that's it. You don't move around. And so it locks people in, and it's easier to do the counts. So that's probably, I think that's huge right there. The app, well, it's software.
That's Dave Robbins, caucus secretary for Des Moines, Iowa's 31st precinct. Welcome back to the show, Mark Arum in Atlanta, joined by Greg Bluestein, political reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, talking about the caucus last night, the mix-up, the glitch, and the results starting to come in now. Pete Buttigieg leading Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren in fourth, Joe Biden in fourth, Elizabeth Warren in third. Finish up with a couple of quick questions for Greg. Charlie joins us on the show. Charlie, welcome to the Mark Arum Show. How are you?
Pretty good. My question is, why do some states have caucuses and everybody else votes?
What's the history behind the caucus, Greg Bluestein, and why is that still a thing in 2020?
That is a great question. Most states have primaries, like your traditional fill out the oval, pull the lever, touch the touchscreen, whatever, however you vote. But Iowa is one of those few states that has the caucus system, and it's kind of designed as a way to be more participatory. It was designed as a way to involve more people in democracy, and because the system is so different. I don't want to say strange, but it's so different because you're in a room, you're in a library, a community center, a gym, wherever it might be in the middle of your town, and your neighbors, your friends, your teachers, your community leaders are there, encouraging you, pleading you to support whoever they're backing. And so I was at one of these caucus sites last night over in Davenport, which is on the eastern side of the state. And so I listened as, a local businesswoman was trying to get more people to support Elizabeth Warren. And, a guy who had just moved into town spoke tearfully about how Andrew Yang cured him of his depression. And then the mayor of Atlanta was actually there as a surrogate for Joe Biden. And so this whole room of people has no idea who she is, but she takes the stage and gives a very emotional plea to vote for Joe Biden. So, in some sense, it's unique in that you're hearing endorsements not often from high-profile politicians, but from your own neighbors. But it's very imperfect. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot more time than just voting. Those people who were in that room last night were there for like 2-3 hours. And so as much as they try to make it participatory, what ends up happening is that only the more affluent people who aren't working night shifts and who can afford daycare and childcare for their kids and all that end up showing up.
Yeah, it's just, again, I said this yesterday and I reiterate today, I'm glad I've always lived in primary states. While I like the political process, I have neither the time nor energy to be a part of the caucus situation. At Bluestein on Twitter, Greg, thank you so much for joining us, giving us that great insight on what was going on the streets of Iowa, and get some rest, my friend. You deserve it.
Thank you.
And enjoy the State of the Union, which is an hour and 2 minutes away.
Here we go.
All right, buddy. That's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you for everyone across the country tuning in on the Cox Media Group Radio Network. We will be off tomorrow, but back on Thursday with another special program, I'm being told. So keep it tuned right here. The complete update tomorrow morning on the morning news, and use that open mic feature. Let folks know what you thought about the State of the Union on Twitter and Instagram at Mark Arum. Have a great night, everybody.
Guess
guests of the Mark Arum Show stay at the All Suite Omni Hotel, located in the heart of Chicago's Magnificent Mile.